It's 1 o'clock. Um, and let's see, I'm just reading the pop-up. Oh, okay, yeah. So it's 1 o'clock and the meeting's called to order. If you'd note Suzette, who's here. Um, and we have an agenda before us. Shelley, do you want to approve the agenda there?
I make a motion to approve the agenda.
I'll second.
Great. Oh, let's see. Do we have Deb? Are you online now?
I am.
Oh, good. Okay, I didn't see you pop in there. Great.
It knocked me out a couple of times, but I'm in now.
Okay, good. Perseverance pays off, right?
Yeah.
Okay, let's see. So next item is public participation. Is there anybody in the room or online who wants to address the committee? I'm seeing none. We have our minutes of September 12th, 2024 in front of us. Can I have a motion on the minutes, please?
I move to approve the minutes as presented, or I'll second, whichever.
We'll make Deb the maker and Shelley the second. Okay, Joe, who is, just for the record, Joe, who is online. It's all yours, Joe. Go ahead.
Thank you, Max. So for the month of August, we saw a slight softening in overall revenue, but we did see an increase in net patient revenue. It exceeded the prior month by $516,000. This was primarily due to a decrease in the contractual rate. We had good collections during the month for the hospital side. So as we have those old ARs drop off, the contractual rate drops too. So that kind of drove the increase in the net patient revenue increase. On the expense side, we continue to see physician contract as being well above budget, and that was due to me missing the anesthesia services that we had added. I missed it on both sides. Contract labor continues to run high as well. We will see some of these contracts dropping off. We had stated earlier that we thought most of the CNAs would be dropping from Wildflower Court. We have seen some turnover over the last month in Wildflower Court. We're probably going to have to retain at least 6 CNAs for contract staff over there until we get the new batch of graduates. And so we'll see that continue to run higher than expected, but lower than it has been, is what I would say. Total expenses were $716 less than budget, but also $307,000 less than the prior month. We had an operating gain of 13.4% and a net gain of 15.1%. As stated before, we need to have enough good months during the summer to offset the losses we will have during the winter months. From a balance sheet perspective, we saw cash decreased. I had stated in the prior months that we expected this to increase based on high collections from the hospital. We did see good collections on the hospital side, over $13 million, but what I didn't foresee or didn't miss was the decrease in our current liabilities. So we had 3 payrolls processed during the month, and we were able to get our accounts payable down. So we saw our current liabilities drop by $3.4 million during the month. So we brought in a lot of cash, but we also spent a lot during the month, or a lot of cash went out the door. Speaking of good collections, we saw our AR days decrease to 66.2 from 71.9. So there was work done on the AR side. We saw another good month of collections from the hospital in September. So hopefully this number will continue to its downward trend. Days cash decreased from 85.8 to 85.8 from 86.2. So we saw a slight decrease in the days cash with that decrease in overall cash. I know Tammy's still working diligently on the home health and hospice billing. I don't have an update on that one to provide for the committee at this point. So hopefully we'll have an update for the board meeting when we get to that. I will also address the critical access, our current status with critical access in my board letter. We did meet with the DOH, the Department of Health, city leadership. We had Max and Kenny were involved. We met with DOH and talked about our critical access application. next steps, tried to address their concerns with the process. I'll go into that in my letter for the board, so there will be more, and I'll go into that during my board report on Monday as well. With that, is there any questions that I can address specifically? I did have one come in prior. I'll just gotta address it now, Max, if that's okay.
Sure.
Looking at the employee benefits, we're well below budget. But when I look at our trending 13 months, it's been consistent. And so I had to go back and look at how we budgeted for those benefits. It might have been when we put the budget together, we just overestimated the benefits. It's one of the drawbacks to doing this size of budget in an Excel spreadsheet, I'd say.
Okay. Deb or Shelley, do either one of you have questions for Joe?
Through the chair. Do we have a reason why there was the loss of CNAs from Wildflower Court? Because I'm trying to remember, I thought we'd be close to being fully staffed at this point.
It was various reasons. We lost a couple to the LPN program. We had one resignation. So we just have, some of them are just going other places in the hospital, different programs. We're looking at how we bring these people in and the commitment they have to the program and see if we can kind of change how we have those staff try to fulfill that commitment before they take additional steps within the hospital. I think of that, all the changes, one was a true resignation is my recollection.
Thank you.
Joe, to follow up on that, when's the next batch of CNA graduates due?
I don't know off the top of my head. I know Chad might have to address that one. I know we had 4 in the class. Chad, can you take that one?
Yeah, the next class, they should finish up their actual training by end of November. I think it's the last week of November, so they should be testing in December. So once they've graduated, they can work for a period of time with some oversight, but that'll be an additional 4. So we're gonna have a couple of stragglers, and they still have quite a bit of overtime at Wildflower Court, even with the current level of staffing. So we'll keep cranking out CNAs and keep filling them up. But yeah, as Joe mentioned, the turnover will continue. I mean, at that level, that position is a type of position that has kind of a constant churn. So we're gonna have to stay ahead of
that. Kim, do you have anything you would like to add to that? Okay, I know she was online. I saw a pop-up come up and it disappeared on me. So,
yeah, she stated. Sorry, through the chair. Sorry, she stated one of the resignations was due to moving to another state.
Oh, I see. Okay, great. Well, I think the CNA program is such a great. We're still early in that program. We're just seeing the fruits of that, and I just want to commend staff for, the work on that program, and certainly that'll continue to bear fruit as we go forward. Shelley or Deb, do you guys have any more questions?
I just want to follow up on if I may, on the rest of our Grow Your Own program, the affiliations that we have with the LPNs. And how we're doing with staffing on the hospital as a whole.
Yes, it's really a good thing for sure. I just want to maybe highlight a couple of things from the financial statements and just to dwell on them here a little bit more. And that is that the bottom line that we have for August of $2.7 million positive compares to a $1.8 million loss last year. So it's really good to see that progress that we're making. You've done a great job, Joe, moving the needle here, you and all the staff there. And there's a lot of work that goes into that. I know there's a lot of work ahead of you, but it's good to see that it seems like Bartlett is getting on a more sure foot there, and so that's good. And the other thing I just wanted to highlight, Joe, too, I noted the decrease in the days revenue and accounts receivable from 71 to 66 in 1 month. That's a great improvement. It's really good to show that you're the collection efforts that you guys have going on is paying fruit, and we're within striking distance of the industry norm, which is 48. I think it's the closest we've been to that, I think, and since I've been on the board. So, good job on that one too, Joe.
Yeah,
I didn't have anything further. Does Hal or anybody else have any questions for Joe?
No, thank you.
Okay. Okay. Joe, one follow-up I would have on your report is the progress on this your replacement, the recruitment for your replacement. I don't know if you or Chad could speak to that.
I can speak to that. I was just thinking about it. I should have brought it up during my report. We had engaged B. Smith to find an interim to help fill the void as we move forward. And so they pulled us a few candidates. We did some interviews. We found one candidate we thought would be a real good fit for Bartlett. So we had worked with B. Smith to get a contract in place. We're in the middle of background checks. He was slated to start on the 21st, and they're bumping that to the 28th, it looks like, and reading my emails. So it's pending a background check before that person gets started. We are also actively recruiting the full-time replacement. I know we've got it posted in multiple spots. I know it's on Becker's at this point. We've had some applications. Still waiting on some other candidates, hopefully to apply to have a good pool to choose from.
Okay, that's great. So it's good that we'll have an interim. And how long a contract commitment is this interim for? Is it open-ended or what, Joe?
It's open-ended at this point. And so the thing to consider is we bring this interim in, they'll be at the start of our ERP implementation. So depending how that's been going, we might want to make sure we hold this person through the conclusion of that. So we don't have to start the process, stop the process, have different ideas, And so if I'm able to use them to make sure we have a good, clean ERP when we're done with this too, is something we have to consider.
Yeah, that's great. So where is he or she from?
He is from Texas.
Okay.
So he's worked in both some hospitals, Bartlett size, but also Critical Access Hospital. He's got 2 ERP implementations under their belt in the past, has worked with Meditech, so knows that system. So brings a lot of stuff that we were kind of looking for. So it was kind of a good fit for us when we found this person.
Fantastic. The other follow-up I had was about Critical Access. Since the meeting that we've had with the state, have you had any follow-up or interaction with them at all?
Yeah, I was working back and forth on a few of the things. I'm pulling a blank on his name. Daniel, I think what's his name?
Yeah.
The individual that set up the meeting. So we've had some correspondence on the requirement for the community health needs assessment. He was referencing some 501R regulations, which would be more not-for-profit than governmental. So we're trying to understand if that really applies to us before we have steps to move forward on that. I was hoping to have more information when we get to the board meeting.
Okay.
But they are still sitting on those other questions. So we're still waiting on them to respond, I guess.
Yeah.
They did send us all the licensure and we're reviewing that too. And so I'll go into more depth at the board meeting, but it looks like we'll stay with our current structure for the license.
Yes. Okay. The thing to touch on, I think, which is important too, is that this variance request, of course, is just kind of an initial administrative step. And I think I know you are, and I just wanted to kind of touch on the fact that there'll be a very kind of full community education and involvement step along the way of this process. Could you just talk to that briefly, Joe?
Yeah, that's something I've actually engaged Erin on. I know she's done a good job. We've set up she's got an internet page with some frequently asked questions around critical access. She's done some work on getting ready for the community education piece. And we're trying to further understand what the state wants to see from that before we kind of make sure our plan meets their kind of requirement. But there will be stakeholder meetings involved. There will be education for community members as well as we'll have to get that out in multiple different avenues so we catch everybody.
Got it. Okay. And maybe just to tag on as I'm thinking about it, and just touch on the fact that this change to critical access is one that isn't a service impact. What it is, it's a reimbursement impact, if financial impact. If you could talk to that just briefly.
Yeah, and that's something our community educational circuit focus on that. And so what it does is it doesn't limit services in any way. It just restructures how we use our beds and where they're at. And so, over the last 6 months, we had 2 days where we exceeded the 25 acute patients, and it was only a day at a time. So all we have to do is manage the beds, how people are admitted, what status they're in. And so there will be no service interruptions. There'll be no change in the service lines Bartlett offers from that perspective.
Right.
The one thing to consider is when you switch to critical access from a DRG hospital, the co-payments for Part B services for Medicare beneficiaries will change. It'll go from 20% of the allowable amount to 20% of the charges, which could increase certain people's out-of-pocket expenses. When we reviewed that, we found that 93% of our Medicare beneficiaries had a secondary insurance, so the impact is kind of offset by that. The remainder of them are some of the people that frequently apply for charity care or financial assistance. So we feel like the impact community from that perspective should be minimal.
Yeah, and I think it's important to understand that charity care impact. The hospital currently has a charity care program in place that's very vigorous. You're constantly reviewing. For example, there is so far year to date, you've approved $51,000 in charity care, and so. And it's those same types of patients that we're talking about here. So those patients will have the avenue available that's there already to request charity care for any additional costs that they might incur. Is that accurate?
That is correct. And the beauty about critical access is you get reimbursed on your bad debt as well, right? And so we get 65% of those bad debt amounts will be picked up by Medicare when they come back to us.
Yeah, right. Okay, thank you for that. Deb or Shelley, anything further
Nope.
on the financials?
No, I don't have further on that.
Okay.
This is, if I may, this is a little bit of a side, and I can wait to ask this question until the end, to comments. But we were talking about the working with the state of Alaska, and I was wondering if we've had any information about the certificate of need for the ED that maybe I missed. Any updates?
I don't really have an update on the certificate. Well, I can update you on this. During our meeting with the Department of Health, they asked numerous questions around that ED project, what it meant. So we went through the project. Kim did a great job explaining really what it was. They saw the application as an expansion to the ED, and it's really just a modernization of the ED to bring it up to modern standards for modern diseases. So we had a good discussion around that. So, but we haven't seen the approval come back from the state at this point. That's something I can follow up with when I get back in town.
Okay, maybe you can speak to that at the board meeting too, if you're able to get the information by then.
Yeah.
And but to that point, this money that we're spending to modernize it, the ED, is all about the risks that ED workers face in our society now that are new. There's a lot of it that has to do with line of sight as well, so that the nurses and doctors have a better view, that, security is in a better position, that kind of thing. And so there was some need to add some square footage to it, but a lot of that has to do with, positive pressure rooms and that kind of stuff, so that, infectious diseases are well cared for. All the things that they have to deal with now that they didn't have to deal with 20 or 30 years ago when that ED was last remodeled. So this project is absolutely critical and important. And I think that, management's done a good job dealing with that. So I think we're in good shape there. So.
Thanks for that update, Joe.
Okay, so that's the end of Joe's report. Next is committee comments and questions. We'll start with Shelley in the room.
I don't have any.
Okay.
That was my question. for the committee conversations. I knew we were almost there, so.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah, and I don't have anything further. Looking forward to the board meeting on Tuesday night and,
Monday
oh,
night.
I'm sorry, Monday night. Thank you for the correction. Before we adjourn, our next meeting is scheduled for November 15th. Does that still dovetail with everybody's schedules?
That works for me.
Same here.
Yeah, that works for me as well. So, okay, great. So if we could get that on the schedule or invite sent out for that, that would be good. And with that, unless there's anything further, we are adjourned at 11:22. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thanks.
Bye-bye.
Thanks for coming.